Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I am Dustin. This is the show where we review the most active stocks in Yahoo Finance every single day. We're going to be jumping right back into Open. This was one of the stocks that I reviewed yesterday. I find to be really fascinating that Open essentially did nothing today. If we even look, it changed. It looks like 3 basis points for the entire day. It essentially had incredible volatility, but didn't do anything. Now, if we look at where it is relative to itself over the past 9 months, I'm actually going to go ahead and look at the 6 month chart. We can see that the trade range, which is the top, which is the red line, and you have the green line, you have the sell top and the buy bottom. The black line is the price. We can see the price is essentially in the dead set middle right now. It does look like the range is starting to get a little bit tighter here. The volatility is probably falling. If we look at what's been going on in the chart here, the green line represents a bullish sentiment that we've essentially seen. We've gotten what looks like to be essentially a top and then a sideways movement, a little bit of drop, a little bit of sideways movement, and it looks like a resolution, which is going to start going back upwards in terms of it showing bullish movement. Now, the volume that we've been looking at today was only 197 million shares traded. It looks like that average over the past 6 months has been 221 million shares, so a little bit below. Now, if we're looking at the overall sentiment, we can see this thing is coming down, but it's still above the 50% line, which is the black line. It's at 52% bullishness. On the 15-day, it looks like we're struggling a little bit. We're at 49% bullishness. The one thing that I do love is that we've got the rolling over volatility. I do believe that falling volatility is when trend reveals itself. Now we've got falling volatility and we've got negative correlation. Now, if you know anything about math, two negatives do make a positive in this circumstance. When the volatility is falling and the correlation is negative, the price is generally going to go sideways to up. Now, if we look at what we're looking at in the data table here, the focus here I pay attention to is going to be on the close and then the volume. You can see this price guide here, essentially, or price volume guide. Because we know that we've got a green background with black lettering in both the close and in the volume, we know that we're in the normal range for both of them. Now, if you're looking at something where you're in the normal range for price, but you're at the moderately low for volume, I'd be paying attention to a little bit of that. Right now, we have reclaimed above the trade level. We do have a higher low on the bottom. It looks like the top of the range is starting to come down, as I alluded to earlier. But we do see a future price path with a price to rise, which is based off of the volatility and the correlation. Now, from the 1 day to the 5 day, we are incredibly positive. We have flipped from that 15 day. It looks like we were negative for 3 days in a row, down at one point nearly 23 or 24%, then down only 10, and now down only 2. I do like the moves that we're seeing in open. It looks like something that I'd want to buy, especially if you're getting the type of move that we saw today, where it's going to be opening red and probably having a down move. Let's go ahead and look at Plug. Now, Plug continues to be a stock that just has massive vol. I know I reviewed it yesterday in my video, and while we're doing this, we're waiting for the data to load. Don't forget to subscribe. I make videos pretty much every single day. I make them way too long sometimes. Yesterday's kind of rambly, but I do make videos that I'll make essentially around like crypto briefings or just analyzing individual stocks and things like that. So feel free to tag along and subscribe on the channel. Now, looking at Plug, one of the things that I don't like about this, just looking specifically at this initial chart, is that the price has been hitting the top of the range. And what I mean I don't like it, I mean from where we are. And the reason why I say that is because the close was at 413, the top of the range is at 410. We're well above the top of the range. We're gonna have to come back down. You can see we were down 6.3% today. If we look at even the 3 month chart here, you can see it's been quite the move. It's been quite the move since September 11th. Never forget. We've essentially continued to see some massive movement, but the past 2 days have been really ugly now. Now today, when you're looking at this down, Yahoo Finance calculates it at 6.3%. The reason is because Yahoo Finance uses yesterday's close to today's close, where this is from today's open to today's close. So while yes, from yesterday's close, we are not down as much, today was pretty much an ugly day. We opened at 419, we ended up closing at 386 or 387. The thing I'd say is most concerning is that we see this on a lot of volume over the past 2 days, especially when you consider the move that we've seen down. I would expect, though, this kind of move because when we look at the daily sentiment on the past 3 months, we're at 63%. This indicator is 100%. So generally, it doesn't go above the high 60s and doesn't go below the low 40s. So when you're already at 63% in something, I would be a little concerned. The thing that isn't so concerning is that because this is essentially a penny stock, I'm not saying that it actually is, but it is $3.87. So it might as well be a penny stock. Essentially, the way that we're looking at it is you're going to see incredible swings. You're going to see incredible swings and moves in the volatility and in the sentiment. Now, on the 15-day, we are at 60% bullish, which is quite nice. On the volatility, we continue to break out. We're making highs. You can see the correlation is also positive, so you're expecting these things to be high correlation, high volatility. You could probably get some possible gap ups coming in the future. What I'd like to see personally is with the way that plug has been moving, you can see that it's been moderately high and significantly high. Today it came back down. I'd like to see it in the normal range. Now we know that we had significantly lower volume in the past couple days, which is in the normal range again, just a little under 200 million shares. The trade level continues to climb, but it's still got a ways to go to get even closer where the close is. The top of the range is at 433. The bottom of the range, just because of the volatility, is way down at 51 cents. I doubt we're going to hit that, but you could just because of the type of moves that we've seen. Obviously, being down 6.3% today, still up 66% over 5 days and 130% over 15 days. I'm suspecting that this is going to take a little bit of time for it to kind of hang out. We're going to go ahead and look at Denison Mines. I don't normally look at mining companies, but when you've got volatility and you've got moves like this, I have no problem with it. And one of the reasons I have no problem is because we're in a market where it seems that commodities are doing incredibly well. And I think that, well, not I think, I 100% know that commodities and commodity stocks tend to trend. So when you get something that flips to bullish, like you see here in the second, this thing is essentially continued to run. The top of the range, while it's not breaking out any higher at the moment, is still well above where it was recently, as well as the price looks like it's essentially following the top of the range. It's probably a very good place to buy in. When I'm looking at the candlestick charts, the thing that I love to see is I love to see low volatility bull markets. If you've ever traded a really good bull market, they're very low volatility. You generally will get some very aggressive trend in terms of the movement over time, but each day will be like 1%, 0%. 1%, 6%. I mean, you really don't usually see gigantic moves in a major bull market. You'll get moves where you're like up 72 basis points for the day. I will say that I'm very, very encouraged by the fact that we saw a lot of volume today, as well as when we look at the sentiment, you can see we're at 63% on the daily sentiment. On the 15-day, we're at 66%. The volatility is starting to roll over. If you've watched my previous videos, I always say that when the volatility is falling over, that's when trend reveals itself. The correlation to the volatility is very negative, which again, two negatives will make a positive. So the price will generally go sideways to up. And when you have a low volatility bull market, that's what you're looking for. It's fascinating to me that this thing was up 1.42%, but we are moderately high for the past, it looks like 5 or 6 days. 5 days, you've been able to buy this in the normal range. The volume today was absolutely massive, absolutely massive. This is significantly high volume. We're looking at the trade level. We're actually not that far from the trade level. The top of the range is well within range. And again, the top of the range hasn't been breaking out. It's been essentially holding strong at 305. But I suspect that by the end of this week, the trade range will probably be much higher. I would say, I mean, maybe 315, just because you're not getting a lot of movement in this. I love that we've got a future price path with price to rise. It's going to be based on the volatility and the price correlation. I like what I'm seeing in Denison Mines. It looks fantastic. Let's go ahead and look at Rigetti. I have looked at this stock so many different times. Rigetti Computing. I'm assuming that this is like an AI name. Again, if you watch my videos, I do not read news. I do not pay attention to the fundamentals. I am purely based off of what is happening from a quantitative perspective in the data set of the price movement. I can calculate my own actual indicators off of everything else as long as I get like the high, the low, the open, the close, and I get the volume. I can calculate everything else. The volatility, my ranges, everything can be done as long as you have that basic information. Now, looking here at what's been going on in this stock, the thing that I like to see is that this thing essentially was low volatility going all the way through. It looks like May, June, July. We got a breakout here. It looks like in the very beginning of September. One of the big key signs that I generally will look for is when you're breaking up above the top of the range starts to expand like this. The thing that I love to see in what I'm seeing in Rigetti is essentially that the top of the range continues to scream higher. The price is taking a little bit of a breather, similar to what we were looking at, I believe, in open, and then it's continuing to rise. So it's showing me that this thing can continue to move, even though these moves are crazy and very extreme. You can see in the chart, we've had bullish markets the entire time. The prices continue to careen higher. The volume, there's nothing I can say except for this is fantastic. The reason why is because when you're seeing moves where you want to see something confirm the trend, you want to see it on higher volume. So as it was starting to fall here in the middle of September, so was the volume. And then when it started to accelerate, so was the volume. I love that. We look at the actual indicators here. We're at 69%. Again, if you watched the previous part of this video, I'm really surprised when anything gets up that high. It usually will snap back because this is usually a mean reverting indicator. So at 69%, I would expect to see a little bit of price regression and or at least the price just hanging out in the same spot for a while. Now, when we look at the 15-day, we're at 60%. So we're actually lower than the daily sentiment. So if that's an indication of things to come, we're looking here at the volume or the volatility, excuse me. The vol correlation is positive as well. This is why you're probably starting to get gap ups. The thing that I can say is we are just so far away from where any reasonable person will be buying it, and that might be the reason to buy it, in my opinion. So if we look at the price, right, we are moderately high. If we look at the volume, we are moderately high today. We are significantly away from the trade level, which is at 28.58. The top of the range is at 48.20. I would suspect that that's probably going to mellow out a little bit just because that range is pretty extreme here. You can see on the future price path, we've got a price to fall, but we are still positive on the 1 day, 5 day, 15 day, 1 month, and 3 month. I think this is insane, but at the same time, when you're up 243% over 3 months, again, I suspect that this is going to have some mean reversion, but that's just me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to skip forward. I don't care for it. We're going to go ahead and look at NVIDIA. The thing that I'm very curious about with NVIDIA is when will this thing break 190? I think NVIDIA has got to break $190. It's most likely has to close above 200 before the end of the year. The thing is that when we actually get this chart data, I'm loading my data in the other, my other monitor, but when we actually get it, you will start to see that NVIDIA has essentially been bearish for quite a while and is now starting to flip to what I'm hoping is bullish today. Yeah, perfect. So in my previous videos, again, subscribe, like, subscribe. I do cover NVIDIA and I have definitely covered NVIDIA very recently, especially if you go back to, I did a video on it yesterday, definitely did a video on it like 4 days ago, 10 days ago, 15 days ago. Again, I only have 172 subscribers. I've made 377 videos. You should subscribe. This is great content. Now, if we're looking at NVIDIA, the thing that I love about what's been going on, and I've said this in my previous videos, NVIDIA looks like the king is returning from battle and he's here to take some heads. The reason I say that is because if you look over the past 9 months, NVIDIA essentially was going sideways here for quite a while. Obviously, it went a little bearish. That's what the red lines mean underneath the black line. That means the bearish signal. That's what you can see. So when it flips bullish here, you can see it really did have a nice move. It looks like Intel just did the middle of August. And essentially, it's been going sideways to slightly up ever since in the entire month of September. Now, for the very first time, we are actually seeing that we're getting a bullish signal returning in NVIDIA. I'm a big fan of this because, full disclosure, I do have call options, and I do believe that this is going to be one of the stronger stocks through the end of the year, just because A, it has continued, A, it has name recognition, B, it's got momentum, C, it's in the thematic thing that people love, which is AI right now, and then D, they just have a charismatic leader that is just willing to do an interview at any time. It is so much easier to sell a stock when you like the person who is the person you're buying, technically. So when we're looking at what's going on in NVIDIA, I'm a fan. If I was going to say the one thing I need to see that's really going to be confirming, obviously a bullish move in terms of the sentiment is positive. I need to see more volume. I truly need to see a move that is going to have a day of volume that's going to be more than 231 million shares traded, and I need to see it where the price is moving higher. I'm suspecting if we're going to get that, it's going to happen within the next like 10 days or so, just because the type of move that we're seeing is so. We're seeing the indicators flip, but we're not seeing the price really validate. And when we're looking here at the sentiment indicator, even on the full like day, we're at 51%. On the 3 week, we are only at 50%. I'm suspecting that we're going to see that break much higher, probably 55 to 60%. Now, the volatility is going to have to do something. It really has not had a good run since essentially this move here, which is essentially through the entire summer. We've just reset. We're rising up a little bit. Obviously, as the volatility breaks out a little bit and the correlation is negative, that's not really a good thing. When volatility is going higher and the price correlation is negative, that means the price is generally falling or going down just slightly. Now, if we look at what's been going on in NVIDIA, the thing that's the most fascinating and the thing that's the most interesting is that it was down today. It's been down 3 days in a row when you're looking at that 1 day change, but it's actually flipped bullish. And we are just seeing the trade level start to get closer to this 185. So I like this personally because I like to buy close to the trade level. I think buying close to the trade level and then with good upside is actually what the most important thing, in my opinion, for something that I want to buy or where I want to buy it. I do not like to see that I see the price to fall. That's slightly concerning. So I'm suspecting that there's going to be a resumption of bullish momentum. Right now, we flipped to bullish. We are right by the trade level. The top of the range is not higher than it is higher than it was, but it's not higher than it was a couple days ago. We would suspect, and I would say that we suspect, and I really mean the royal we, because I'm really talking about myself here, is I would suspect that NVIDIA is going to close in the low 190s sometime before the 15th of October, or this thing's going to flip back bearish. And I would be very concerned then. The reason why I'd be concerned is because this thing is such a momentum stock for the entire stock market. Let's go ahead and look at Archer. I looked at this the other day. I still don't know what Archer does. I still have no idea what Archer Aviation does. I'm assuming it's planes. I'm just going to say, was it electric planes? I have no idea. Someone tell me in the comments below. We're looking at Archer. I can see why people want to trade this. I can already see because you have a lot of ups, you have a lot of downs, but you don't have really a lot of trend, is my concern. Trend. I want to see proper movement in a stock. This, at least over the past year, is not really good movement. Now we did break up above the top of the range, and as you'd expect, we had a little bit of mean reversion, so we are back below the bottom. We're back below the bottom of the top of the range, I guess. When we're looking at the overall charts, the candles look interesting. The volume is actually kind of scary. The move that we've seen up has been huge. Obviously, the move down today was gigantic. The concerning thing, when we're going to be honest, is if you just look at the sentiment, we were up at 64%, and this indicator is zero bounded or is 100% bounded. So it's never going to get above like 70%. It's never going to get below like 30%, unless it's super extreme in a penny stock. And this is not one of those. It's a $12 stock. We're looking at the sentiment. It looks like it's starting to roll over. We're at 60% on the 15 day. The volatility is starting to break out. The correlation is going negative. The price is going to fall. I mean, that's like you can do one of two things when you're looking at markets, and this is how I think about it. You can trade it off of the actual price, which is where I get most of my information, or you can trade it off a second derivative. And for me, volatility and then the price correlation to the volatility is the thing that I like to pay attention to. The reason why is because I look at price and I look at momentum as though it's like a ship in water. Once it gets moving, it's really hard to slow down, but it is really, really easy to stop it if it gets hit by something else. So right now, what it's showing me is that volatility is breaking out and correlation is breaking down. The second derivative is really driving this. So it's mostly the reason why something like that would happen is because you see such an extreme move, which is probably not propagated on trend. It's really propagated on some sort of like event. So what'll happen is you'll see an extreme price move, and then there'll be a snapback to like get back in line with the second derivative stuff. So the volatility is starting to break out. We're looking at the data chart. The concerning thing is that this thing was extremely high and now it's only moderately high. Again, it was down 8.5% today. Yes, you saw massive, massive volume. Not like as big as the previous 2 days where it was at 159 million, or the previous day was at 159 million. We only saw 100 nearly 30 million today. The trade level is still at 983. It's probably going to be over 10 tomorrow. Top of the range is at 1304. We got a higher high. So like there is a possibility that this could continue to run. We do have that future price path, price to rise. It was down today. We're still positive in the 5 day, 15 day, all the way through the 1 year. The 15 percent on the 3 month is really interesting to me because you think it's been up 48% in 1 month, but over 3 months it's only up 15%. That's a really interesting number to me. I want to watch that and see if it can hold. Be very curious what happens to Archer. Let's go ahead and look at SoFi. SoFi is one of my darlings. I definitely said this last week. Full disclosure, I owned a bunch of like $25 calls. I ended up selling them all when this thing started to dip back down to $25. I love that this thing closed above 28 because I know that like 27 was a big deal. When we get the data, you'll start to see it. SoFi is an interesting one to me because it definitely has all of the indicators of something that is going to be very, very marketable in the market. And you can see here that this thing has been essentially on a tear, it looks like, since the middle of April. Now, we saw the top, and then when it got around 30 and started to come back down, I sold all my calls because I was like, I'll probably get another opportunity. And this is probably the opportunity, to be fair. I mean, yes, I could have definitely bought at 25 a couple of days ago, but I was just rotating into some like Q's calls because why not? Like, why trade hard when you can trade easy and just buy Q's calls? I like that we see that this thing has essentially rotated into bullish sentiment, though. We don't see the top of the range necessarily breaking out. We do see the bottom coming up. We see the prices had a nice substantial move off of this like 25, 24 a couple of days ago. The bullish sentiment has returned. The candles look nice. The volume has returned too. Big fan of the fact that the volume has returned inside of SoFi. The sentiment, not so much. We are only at 51 and 50 over the past 2 days. We've been negative recently. Even on the 15 day, we're still at 49%, so we're not really even above 50% yet. The volatility is starting to fall. So again, I always believe that the trend reveals itself when volatility starts to fall. The correlation is negative. Love to see that. So that means that and so you can see here in the data table, I talked about 27 was a big number. The trade level is at 27.34, so we just cleared it. We're at 28.14. You can see the volume was very high today, so people are definitely piling back in. We did flip bullish. Again, we're still in the normal range, though. This is the thing. So because we are in, you see the green background with the black lettering, it means that we are in the normal portion of the distribution. I would definitely consider taking some calls from here, probably like the $25 calls, because you're going to get a lot of juice as it continues to move. But because you're in the normal part of the range, if this thing goes over like 28.50, $29, it'll be a little concerning just because the top of the range is already at 30.59. But when you're in the middle of the range, that's definitely the time when I like to take a position. I don't have a position so far. I definitely could see myself taking one, especially if it opens really weak in the morning. But again, we are positive on the 1 day, the 5 day, the 15 day, the 1 month, the 3 month, the 6 month. I love the move. I mean, you can see that the 1 month flipped negative for 1 day. The 3 month never went negative. The 5 day or the 15 day only flipped negative for 2 days. So I'm a big fan of what I'm seeing here inside of SoFi. Huge fan. Let's go ahead and look at AMD. AMD is an interesting one. I covered it yesterday because it had the news. The reason that I found it to be really interesting was because essentially I'm like, okay, so these companies just buy stuff from each other and then they just pay each other back. It's kind of weird, but whatever. The move in AMD is interesting because it essentially mimics the move that we saw earlier in NVIDIA. So again, this is a reason why I think that NVIDIA could have a nice up move because when you look, this is very similar to what we saw. You saw a longer sustained bull move, which is very, very trendful. Then you saw a bear market, which really didn't do much. When I say bear market, I mean bear sentiment or bear sentiment. And then you don't see the price really go down. And then you see the reversal to bullishness and you see an explosion. And obviously, we know that this is catalyst driven because this is based off of, I think, someone took a position or OpenAI or, well, I don't know, one of the other AI companies gave them money Again, I don't read the news. I don't pay attention to the fundamentals. I really don't care. The data will tell you everything. Just let it set you free. So when we're looking here at the overall volume, obviously yesterday we saw a gap up, massive volume. Today, massive volume. I just don't really like the fact that yesterday, even though yes, it was a gap up and technically it was up from previous day's close, it was still down for the day. Like it opened at 226 and it closed at 203. That's still down 10%. Today it opened at 214 and closed at 211. It's still down. It's still down 1.5%. I would like to see this thing kind of reset and then potentially take a position. Obviously, now we're at 50, not obviously, now we're above the 50% line. We're at 52.5% for bullishness. On the 15-day, we're only at 50%. The volatility is completely reset. We're starting to see an explosion there. Correlation is still negative. See, so the volatility is breaking out, the price correlation is negative, and no wonder when you're looking at these ticker or when you're looking at the days, you're down. Because the second derivative is like, yeah, there's nothing behind this. This is a purely price driven move. There's no second derivatives. It takes a while for everything to kind of get in line. It's interesting because yesterday closed at 203 and today closed at 211. Obviously, we were up 3.38% today, but we did it on lower volume. Yesterday's volume is obviously historic. We're well above the trade level. We're very, very bullish. I love that we have a higher high. Obviously, we're above the high. We're above the sell top, so it'll take a little while for this to kind of update. But I do like the fact that we're positive on the 1 day all the way through the 1 year. Even the 1 month is not crazy at 35%. The 3 month is a little much at 44%, but I do suspect that this could be sustainable. I think for right now, it's probably going to just kind of sit in this range until it can build a little bit of a base, and then it'll probably turn over. Let's go ahead and look. I'm going to look at two more. I'm going to look at Intel. So Intel, I find to be fascinating. The reason why is because this is one of those other stocks that essentially has the full backing, or the full faith and credit of the U.S. government at this point. As soon as they take a position, that says a lot about what I'm supposed to think about the idea of this company, because I'm not saying that government's telling me I need to buy it, but they're spending my money on it. So I guess I should buy it. You know what I mean? Like if they're using my money, I guess we're all partners in this. And when I think about the type of moves that we've seen ever since, obviously the big like to do was on the 17th here. The moves that we've seen ever since, the trade range breaking out, the price following along, the trend has been obviously very, very bullish. The candles, the volume, everything is going higher. The sentiment, we're at 57.4%. Even on the 15-day, we're at 60%. The volatility is breaking out. The correlation is negative, and yet the price continues to rise. I don't know. Maybe the government has fucking powers to do anything that they want now, I guess. We look at the price, we are moderately high, and we have been ever since the 17th, right? Like the 17th was the last normal day before there was a position from the US government. We were extremely high that day. We were moderately high, moderate or significantly high, moderately high, significantly high, all the way through. You don't see the volume to support it. I will say that. You don't see crazy volume to support it. This is in the normal range, but obviously the range is coming up now that we've had these massive days. Very bullish. The trade level's at 30.96. The top of the range is at 42.97. We got higher highs. We've got it green all the way across from the 1 day to the 1 year. I don't know what else you're looking for. Buy it for America, I guess. I don't know. Let's go ahead and look at Tesla. Tesla, I've commented this many times on Tesla. This is blessed by the volatility gods. If you believe in volatility, if you love volatility, if you like seeing your IB get crushed, I don't, whatever. Tesla's for you. The reason I say that is this thing can go from what was like 330 to like $500 in nothing. So when we look at the actual chart, it's interesting to me because this thing has essentially been on a tear. The top of the range started to break out, is now starting to roll over. The price is still in the middle of the range, so I do think that there's definitely still like upside to see in Tesla. I don't know what kind of announcements they're going to do. I think they just came out with some car or something that I was just reading, but duh, they came out with a car. They're a car company. When we look at their candles, it's been essentially sideways to up. I imagine that that means that we are seeing the correlations be like relatively together, right? The correlation's kind of breaking out. The correlation's kind of coming up higher. It's not super negative, right? It's only like negative 0.23, you know, 0.20. That's not crazy negative in terms of its correlation between price and volatility. The sentiment has peaked at 66. It's now at 63. The 15-day is at 53.9 as it continues to come down. We look at the data. You can see we got a green background with black lettering. Very, very nice normal range here in Tesla. Again, these are the type of positions that I would want to buy. I'd like to see it get a little bit closer to its trade level, but beggars can't be choosers. Top of the range is 48, is 489.63. We've been down on the 1 day, or we were down on the 1 day. We've been down looking back over the past 5 days. We've got a couple of those in the past few days together. We're still positive on the 15-day at 2.72%, on the 1 month, 3 month, 6 month. Tesla looks good to me, as crazy as it seems, considering the move that we've seen, where this thing was just, I mean, barely a month ago. I mean, today is the 6th, or today is the 7th. And on the 8th, it was at 346, and now it's at 433. Like, it's a remarkable move that we've seen inside of Tesla, but I do think that there's a lot of move ahead. So this is what I've been doing in terms of looking at the most active stocks in Yahoo Finance. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube. Go ahead, Bootleg Macro. You know you want to. You can love it. And if you want to, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I don't have that many followers. I do post my videos there, but if you're already watching me on YouTube, watch it there. And I will talk to you soon.